my name is Joanna Kupis, and I would like to say a few words about the accessibility, because as it was said before, it's a really important topic and it's often skipped during the development phase. And as you can see here, this is the shortcut for accessibility: A, 11 letters, and then Y. And this will be some kind of case study. I will show you the examples of how you can easily adjust your web page to being accessible. And I would like to give you some brief intro why I get interested in that topic. So one day, one of my bosses came to me and told me that our web page should be adjusted for people with some kind of disabilities, and asked me to do that, to work on that, to write some kind of specification. And what I've learned at first was that a lot of developers treat it like some kind of mythical creature. They actually don't believe the accessibility issue exists. So, and if some of the do know it, they don't care. So it was like way through a torment to do this and to implement this. And I would like to share with you this experience. So imagine the scenario that you are shopping online, and while shopping, you're going through some products, you're reading the description, you do stuff, you spend 2 hours on that, you submit the form, and at the final step, you are not able to finish your shopping. And this is what people with disabilities often can experience. And this is how frustrated it can get when you try to do that. So honestly, if I were this user, I would never come back for the web page. So I believe that this is the case also for people who have these challenges every day. And that should already convince you that the accessibility is an important topic and we should bother about it. But if that doesn't convince you, you're probably heartless, but why we should bother anyway? We have about 50% of the words which lived with disabilities. So this means that there is 1 billion people worldwide who cannot fully experience your application, who cannot use it if you do not adjust it for them. So for you, it's also 1 billion people who won't be your potential client. Then, addressing accessibility issues benefits all users, because sometimes we are using our laptops in a full sunlight and we are not seeing really well. And then we can use, for example, tab indexing and tabbing through the page for focusing on the content. And also addressing accessibility issues is where we stop and think about simple native user experience. We are thinking about native HTML tags. We are thinking about how to make our web page simple, to make it actually ready for everyone who would like to use this our web page. What is more, thinking about the accessibility at the beginning of the project gives us the opportunity to also prepare well-designed project, well-designed web. So I will start with the focus, because while going through the pages, we can often spot that there is something wrong without the keyboard events on the web page. And for example, on many very popular web pages, you can tap through the page and the focus is jumping all over. And you have no control when on the web page you are. So what is the focus? This is a way of selecting an element and directing all the keyboard events into it. For example, like in the case of input, where you just start typing and what you are typing is visible on the screen. And focus is connected really strongly with tab index and tab indexing and tab ordering. So when you press tab, you can notice the focus on the web page, and the tab order is very connected to the order in your HTML elements in the DOM. And very often that's the problem. Why? Because you can mess around with CSS, because you can use tab index and use it a lot, and then you end up with totally inaccessible page, which I will just present. Whoa. Okay, sorry. So let's imagine that you have some kind of form to write, and all of the inputs and buttons are like the first three one, and there is the changing requirement for the last line. And because we are lazy, we just decide to change the order by using flex direction, row reverse. What's happened here? So we are tabbing, and then we probably would like to see the focus on the generate button. But that's not the case, because in the DOM, the order is different than what you see on the slide. Then the same can go. Okay, I probably cannot move it like that. So here also we use the float rights, and as you probably already guessed what happens, we have a home as a first element, and then boom, there is a login. And for us it's confusing, but for someone who cannot see, for example, the content, it's even more confusing. It's jumping all over, reading some stuff not really connected to each other because of the way how our web page is designed. Then there we can also mess things up a bit with position, for example, position absolute. And at first we have the subscribe button because it's absolutely positioned, but it's first in the DOM. And then it's like that. So not what we expected, not what is really intuitive for us, and the intuitive design is what we actually tend to achieve during our work. Then it's my favorite example, actually, because it's what I can see in many, many places while I'm wandering around the internet. And we have, as you can see, the focus on the menu and categories. And then I start tabbing. You will get the notification while I'm tabbing. The sign tab will show up. You don't have to believe me. So there is a tab, and the focus is vanished. We'll tap again, and again, and again, and finally, we get the focus back. You probably already guess what happened. We lost the focus because the menu here, this one, is only positioned out of the visible area, but it's still in the DOM. It's not hidden. Nothing is done with it. So we just lose the focus for home, about, info, contact, and then it's back for it's on the screen. So these were the two demos, and actually, just for out of curiosity, I would give you a possible solution for that. So we can use display none, but the problem here is that if we do have some kind of animation, they are gone. So display none is not the really good idea here. Then the tab indexing. The tab indexing and setting tab index to -1 results in us, which are forced to think about resetting it to 0 and setting it every time we just want to hide or show our navigation bar. Then there is my favorite solution, the visibility hidden. It hides it out from the DOM, and we cannot tap into it, but all the animation are preserved. Then we're going back to the area, so accessible or rich internet application, and it's really connected to the previous slides because we can create accessible rich internet application just by keeping things simple. So instead of creating very complex custom elements, we could go with buttons, inputs, and they all are accessible. You don't have to really put into it a lot of work, and you have it for free. So sometimes less is more. The first thing you can get for free with using the native elements, it's focus. As you can see, the buttons, the inputs with different types has the focus already built in. So you don't have to, and we will go through the example how we can, for example, do the button accessible when it's a custom one. But here, just a reminder that they have it. It's really good, and you probably should not remove this outline from your web pages because it's really needed, it's really necessary, and it will make your life easier. Then there is a bit more into the native element. We have here the properly used select with options with all the data. So as you can see, for example, for screen reader, it's already the behavior is out of the box. As I said, we have a label, so the screen reader will read it as favorite animal, and then it says that it's a combo box, that the value is tiger. We have here the information if it's expanded or not, and it's just out of using native HTML element. The same for the password, for example. Here you get the value read as dots, 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 or star, and you have the role and everything, and again, it's for free. So what with this native element versus custom element, I would like to show you on the example. We have the div and we have the button. We are styling them the same, so they look the same, but the div button is not focusable. So we can fix that easily. Actually, we can just set the tab index to 0, but then we have to think and get a step back to the screen reader. We have to think about the screen reader. So this is a sign up button, the second one, but the first one is read as sign up group. So imagine that you actually do not see well and you are not able to see what's on the screen, and you heard sign up group. You don't know what to do with it. Button, okay, I need to click that. But sign up group, mysterious. Then we need to add role to fix that. And again, we do have now everything set up for the reader, but we do not have any keyboard event handling and disabling button. And that's a lot of work, and that's sad. So I have a demo to cheer you up. And as you can see, it's what was on the slide before. We have all these buttons prepared. The first one and the third one, these are custom buttons. The second, the fourth, these are buttons, native buttons. So let's click on the first custom button. We have the clicked, done. On the second also. But look what happened if I try to reach the first element via keyboard. Nothing happened. And here, it's out of the box. Then, this is the disabled button. And please notice that I'm able to focus on it because it's not, it's a custom element. So I do have override the rule about focusing it. Then, what happened if I click on it? It actually works. The one last thing I would like to say a few words about is a model. I started my journey with accessibility from model, and it was really a nightmare because you have to think about all the requirements, you have to put all of this into consideration, and then there is always something you didn't think of. So I will start with a piece of documentation on what we need to obtain with the modal dialog, and we have tabbing, which should be locked inside the dialog elements from one direction, and with a shift from another to previous focusable element inside the dialog, and we have to we are able to use escape to close the dialog. And I've got actually a good news for you. There is in Chrome already the dialog HTML element, which can get all the difficult tasks from us, and we have all for free. So as you can see, we just need to put the role of dialog. We can use the ARIA label attribute. I would get the step back to tell you about ARIA attributes. These are here to help us if, for example, in case of ARIA labeled, we would like to have to label it as this label shows. So we just give ARIA label by the ID, and we get this behavior again almost for free. So here is how this model works. And as you can see, we do have an access to an address bar, and we only have access to what's inside the model. We are not able to focus on that button, which is good. You may ask why the address bar is taken into consideration, but preparing a good web application, we would like to keep them safe. So we have to give our user the opportunity to get out of the application at the time they want to. So that's why. And as you can see, for free, everything is actually done. If not, we could also use some kind of polyfills. For example, the inner polyfills, which sets all the attributes we set to and set all the tab indexes of the attribute of the elements we want to -1 to skip them while tabbing. But for me, it's actually too much. You have to care. Let's imagine that your element is inside the really bad structured DOM and it's at the end of the tree, and you just need to think which elements should be focusable, which not. So it's a bit too much for more complex application. That's why I think that the simple solution is to use the native elements, and once again, I encourage you to do that. I encourage you also to do the accessible application, because it's actually not so much work to do, and it's payback for you, I promise. This is my inspiration. This is the material I've learned from, and also I give you them to have a possibility to go to this journey further. And that's the end of my presentation. Thank you.
We have like 20 questions, so we're not going to go through all of them, but I would like to ask you a couple of questions because all of us are kind of curious about a couple of things. So the first one is, I'm going to quote, "Luckily, I don't have any disability. How can I test my apps to make sure that people who actually have disabilities can use them?"
There are, at first, tab indexing. You can check it. All over the place, and you can just navigate through your page with keyboard instead of mouse. Then there are screen readers, and it's NVDA for Windows and VoiceOver for Mac, and you can work with them. It won't be easy at the beginning, because they are designed for people who are used to hearing a lot of information right now at the same time, but actually you will learn, and you can go through the application with that screen reader, and you can check how it behaves, what it reads, and what result you get. And of course, Google Chrome have a lot of new functionalities. You can use this accessibility panel. There is accessibility object model. This is the new thing. You can use it also. And there are some testing libraries for it.
Wow, so there are a lot of ways to actually test, apart from inviting users to your company, which I'm sure you can also do.
Yeah.
Speaking of people, this is going to be about the team members. How do you convince designers, the UX designer, your boss, to care about accessibility in your web application?
Actually, I'm working in a banking industry, so this is crucial, because we have a lot of people coming to us using our application, and actually, if there is not a way for everyone to use the application, we lose a lot.
Oh, so you have to actually be compliant with accessibility in order to, get approved or something like that?
Yeah, we have to even in a code review process have the accessibility mentioned and done.
Okay. Another question that we have is heavily upvoted, so I probably have to ask it. Is there any way you can help mobile devices? As in the users who are on mobile devices?
Yeah, there are also readers. I'm not that familiar with it, but there are also some new features, like using, for example, your volume buttons to, for example, move the sliders. So it will be also really helpful for people with disabilities, because they don't really have to work.
Okay. Last question that I have for you is that does accessibility impact SEO in any way? Like, is Google checking whether your site is accessible or not? Or is it not something that Google cares about when it comes to search results?
Actually, there is a way you can check with Google how your page works with the accessibility. For how you search, I'm not sure if that have an impact or searching, but for sure it supports the accessibility application.
But it has impact to up to 15% of the users, so this is why exactly it's so important.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much for coming and being here with us.